What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad that you are. We are getting into another week of the Summer Learning Challenge for homeschool over the summer, and I decided I was going to take you guys along with me. It is Father's Day weekend, it's Saturday, and so I'm getting all my stuff ready before tomorrow because we are going to be spending some time with our families. My husband and my son just left to go to a DIY with Dad camp. One of our local rec centers is putting that on, and they're gonna get to do like a few activities, and it ended up being pretty empty as far as the enrollment goes, so they may end up being like one of the only pairs there, but they went to do that. So I'm gonna take care of some things around the house today, get ready for next week's learning, and so I wanted to bring you guys along so you can have a little bit of an idea of how I plan for our homeschool activities, especially for this summer learning challenge and all of those things. So let's get to it. Before I really get into that, I need to first feed all of my animals because everyone's hanging out in here waiting for mom. So I'm gonna do that first and then we'll get to it. Okay, so it is later and we're gonna go ahead and get started with planning. So the first steps that I take whenever I'm planning is to obviously figure out where the end goal is. So by setting your objectives or deciding what you want the outcome to be, that will help you to then figure out the roadmap in getting there. So when it comes to the Summer Learning Challenge, I gave you guys all of the objectives or the desired outcomes for each week, and I'll show you guys that right there if you haven't seen it already. And that is how I have been deciding what activities, what resources, and what information needs to be learned throughout the week in order to accomplish those objectives. The next step is going to be figuring out what kind of activities you want to do, and of course this is completely up to you. When it comes to the Summer Learning Challenge, I told you guys before that I wanted to keep it very low prep, very simple, and to use the materials that you would be able to find around your house, because I know that makes a lot of the prep work less stressful. It's much easier to feel like you can accomplish something and you don't have to go and get a bunch of things to do that with. Now, if you are looking to plan throughout the year and not follow like a set curriculum, this also applies to you, but I will also leave a link to my planning a unit study video, and I go a lot more into depth, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys and give you a little glimpse if you haven't already seen that, or if this is something that's new to you, and also to give like a little behind the scenes of how I plan our summer learning, because it's very similar to our learning in our regular school year. So you'll decide what activities and what topics you're going to need to hit in order to reach that desired outcome at the end of the learning or at the end of the unit, and then you'll be able to fill in all the pieces from there. So I like to use the Bloom's taxonomy verbs. You can find these all over the internet. There are lots of really cute graphics and organized lists of these, and it helps to kind of have an idea of how difficult or intense you want to dive into the learning and how much of an understanding or a real grasp you want for your learners to have on that topic, because it varies in the levels as far as remembering or just learning and being able to repeat and understand the material versus being able to create something that shows the learning and really has like an independent task or an independent like showcase of the learning that will then be the student's responsibility. So as you progress through the different levels of those verbs, it does help you as the instructor, you know, you're the leader of the pack. It helps you to kind of know where you're expecting your kids to be, and also you can explain to your kids that this is going to help them know what to expect from themselves and how to kind of map their brains out in order to reach that desired outcome. Okay, and then the last piece is going to be very simple, and that is looking for experiments or hands-on things. Experiences, of course, will help tie in the learning and make it last much longer. Whenever you have a paper or a packet or just something to watch, you're able to learn something, but it's not going to have the same lasting effect as it would whenever you are into the learning, doing something that applies the information that you've gained, or something that's a little bit challenging because it will make a bigger mark in their memory and therefore in their learning, and they'll be able to build on those blocks as they go and progress throughout different topics.
So I know that talking about it is not as easy as actually seeing it being done. So I'm going to walk you through as I plan for our next week of learning. So our expected outcomes or our objectives for the week have to do with texture. So for the Summer Learning Challenge in particular, we're talking about all of the art elements and then tying it into some challenges that are more like STEM related. If you don't know what that is science, technology, engineering, and math. And those are more like creative, hands-on, deep thinking activities that allow you to be connecting your learning and all different types of methods in planning and kind of thinking outside of the box. So for our expected outcome, the first one is comparing actual and implied textures. So I knew that we were going to be taking texture, and then whenever I started looking into it, I noticed that there were implied and actual textures. So this is going to be the first thing that we need to be learning about. What's the difference between the two? So that will be the first thing that I include, because those are kind of like our vocabulary words. We need to know those before we can apply them, and before we can definitely have like a challenge or something related to them and tackle the objective. If you don't already know, I have lots of different templates. This is the one that I will be using. This is like an entire document, but you don't have to use all of the templates in here. But these are the weekly templates that I offer, and I'll leave the link down below. But I'll give you a little bit of a walk through here on the ones that I use most often. There are like weekly little snapshots in here so you can jot down, I'll show you, throughout the week what you would like to be doing or what needs to be done. And then there's also daily things in here. So for this particular planning, I like to use the little lesson planner, and then you can select the day up there, but it also has the different topics of learning or the different subjects. So that's an option. And then also included in here are different things for like before the learning, during the learning, and after the learning. So that would be like preparing your kids with vocabulary or any background knowledge kind of activities that you need to know, what is actually going to happen during the learning, and then the assessment to make sure that they got it and make sure that they know it. You don't need to fill in any blanks. My son is brushing his teeth, so if you can hear the water running, I'm sorry. Okay, and so this booklet right here is like my holy grail because I use it all the time to kind of glance back, make sure that I have everything that I need in order to be prepared for a new week. And then I also have some little resources and things at the back, but you also have a week at a glance. So this kind of helps you to see morning, midday, and evening kind of what you would like to do. The first thing that we're going to have to do, which will be like the first day of our week, is, like I said, notice the difference between not only what texture is, but implied and actual textures, and then we'll watch a video or have a supporting resource that goes along with those topics. Like I was saying, you're then going to want to decide what activities to go along as well as the resources. So if there are videos or if there is something that will help to understand, in this case, what actual texture versus implied texture is. For us, this is going to look like finding different textures around the house and doing like the little crayon rub where you put a paper over it, get a crayon and gently rub, and then the texture will show through. Okay, so this pretty much takes care of like day one. You could even make it go into 2 days, especially if you have other resources. So I'm going to also be using Pinterest and some other teacher blogs to help me in deciding what is going to go on for this particular this particular week. Okay, and so immediately they're talking about when you look at something and you can kind of tell the texture already. So that's also something that we will probably implement, and there's just an easy activity again. So if you look at, let's say, a marble, how would you describe the marble? So using those words that would describe how it looks and how it would feel if we were able to touch it will help us to kind of get our brain set to working with texture. So this is a great introductory kind of activity, really gets their brains going and kind of honing in on what topic we're working with for the week. Okay, my air just kicked on, but I'm sorry, I'm not turning it off. It is like already 90 something degrees here and it's still pretty much the morning. So I'm sorry that you can hear that in the background. The next thing that we are going to be doing, I'm still kind of looking and poking around to see if there are any activities that we may want to implement that I see on Pinterest or on any other blogs or anything like that. So I'm gonna poke around just a little bit more and decide what activities we wanna do. The easy thing to me, in my opinion, is finding the videos that go along. I really like to learn from videos and kind of see a different explanation of it, and I've found that that works for my son. So we implement videos all the time, and it usually leads to us doing like a Go Noodle or a Scratch Garden video. If you guys don't know what that is, go check out my summer, what your kids are gonna do during the summer video, and I'll leave that linked up below too, because I leave a lot of like really good resources for your free time, but are also like some fun learning educational videos and YouTube channels. So I'll leave that for you too in case you want to check that out. So we mostly always include a video resource for supporting our learning. Okay, and the last part of this particular learning week would then be to assess or to really be sure that the concepts that we've learned have been learned properly, correctly, that there's no confusion or anything like that, and then we would go from there to either clear up any misconceptions or to move forward. So I'm assuming that this is going to go pretty much like the other weeks have gone, where since we're walking through it together, there really isn't any room for misconceptions by the end, because throughout the week we have discussed and cleared them up and really dove in? What's the correct word there? We've really gotten into the learning and kind of know it by now, right? So then the next thing on our summer learning challenge for the objectives would then be the hands-on activity. The next objective for this particular week is to plan and construct a popsicle stick bridge. So then that would become your next activity, talking about what a plan looks like. You can even discuss like different textures in building materials before you do this to kind of tie it in. But I figured that would just really be a fun activity, and it would require like deep thinking, processing, making a plan, revising a plan, and then testing it out. So that's going to be the fun activity for the week, and I don't really need to plan for that. It's more that I need to be sure I have all of our materials and then set a little template for the plan and what may work, what may need to be revised, and that'll be about it. So if you have not already joined the Summer Learning Challenge, I highly encourage you to do that. We have been having so much fun, and this is already week 4. If you are not on week 4, that's perfectly fine. You can start at week 1, you can do week 3, and then do week 2, and then do week 1, and then do week 4, however you would want to do that. So I will leave all of the information in the description box below in case you want to join and get all the materials for it as well. I hope this has been very helpful and very informative, and I wish you all the luck in planning. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. This is my jam. I really enjoy helping you and kind of walking you through this if there is any confusion, because it's very simple. It doesn't have to seem overwhelming. It doesn't have to seem difficult, and I want for you to be just as successful as we've been in homeschooling. So any way that I could do that, I would love to. I hope that you will subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.